when you are in the pricing line, then I think you need to have a very holistic view. You just cannot go with taking the cost and add the margin and derive the price out of it. You need to have the entire team aligned into one.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
I mean, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the documented relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving. Today our guest is Monica Sinha, and here are 3 things you want to know about Monica before we start. She comes from a background of finance and sales, which is always a good start. She's currently a senior manager at Capgemini and has been working on benchmarking for over 5 years now. And I cannot wait to talk about benchmarking. And she's addicted to numbers, as am I. So this will be fun, at least for us left brain geeks. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Mark.
Hey, how did you get into pricing?
See, I had started my stint with FP&A role. I have been a finance person, MBA finance. It was all about variance analysis, forecasting, tracking levers that can improve contract income, etc. I was doing this for almost 5 years. And then I thought, well, I am comparing actuals with the contract prices. But how are these numbers that we see in contract were computed? It would be great to take the role of the other side when I am myself finalizing the price to be signed in contract. And then I got an opportunity where I was not only creating the price, but also comparing it with the actuals. Once we have won the project and the project is live, I just grabbed that role. And that is how I just got into pricing.
I think those of us who are numbers related, when we see this thing called price, we get all excited about it. We think that's a really cool thing. And in truth, it is. We feel like it's numeric. But at least for me, as I got more and more into pricing, I realized that it isn't really about the number. It's really much more about how people perceive value of our product. Have you had a similar experience or aha moment?
Yeah, certainly. In fact, I would say that pricing is quite complex. It is not so simple that you just put some number and compute and add some margin to it and just get the price out of it. In fact, I would say it is a mystery. It is like a recipe. Every recipe has different ingredients, and even if ingredient is same, processes are so different, and hence the final dish. The chef selects recipe based on what the guests like to eat. So here, our guest is the customer, and what is it that the customer wants to eat? What is the value that the customer wants to see? The price has to be based on that. So it is so different from one customer to another. You just cannot apply the price that you use for one customer for another.
I love that analogy. You're absolutely right that as a chef, I may have a whole bunch of ingredients in my kitchen and there's several different things that I could make, but I want to make what the customer wants.
Right.
That's lovely. Oh, man. Okay, so now, first off, just tell me what benchmarking means to you. And since you've been in benchmarking for so long, let's jump into the topic that we're really curious about today.
So, see, benchmarking, what it suggests is that what is the price ultimately that can lead us to winning a particular deal, or a price what normally our competitors have been quoting in a particular deal. So that is what it suggests as the benchmark price. There are when you are pricing a particular deal, there could be different numbers or different ways in which you can price. But then ultimately, what is the price that will finally, at which you will be able to convince the customer? Where if you compare all the prices, all the deals that our competitors have been quoting or we have been quoting in the past, from there, the price that you will derive, that is what indicates the benchmark.
Okay. And so I often teach companies that we want to do value-based pricing, of course. And value-based pricing at its simplest form is somebody's going to decide between my product and your product.
Yeah.
And what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, what are the prices of the two? So what's the difference in price? And they're going to say, is the more expensive one worth it? Do I get enough value that I'd be willing to pay that much more in order to get the more expensive version of that? And so I teach this all the time. And a question that comes up regularly is, well, I don't know how much my competitor charges.
Right.
That's what benchmarking really is it?
Yes, true. And that is what we are trying to do in benchmarking. We are trying to get that what is it that the competitors quote. And that is what we have created in our database to understand that this is the price at which the competitors quote, and normally they are winning the deal. And not only the competitors, what we ourselves quote in the deals that we have won in the past. So that indicates the benchmark for any deals in future. I mean, basically, we are not just doing a pricing without having any knowledge. I would say this is more like a validation check in front of you. You are doing a solutioning, you are doing some effort estimation, you are adding a cost and adding a margin and deriving the price. But how good is that price? Is that price really sellable? Is that price something which our competitor would be quoting? Is that price at which I would have sold in the past? Benchmark helps validate that. Benchmark gives you a sense that yes, you are close to that price, or you are very far off. Then probably there is some mistake that you're doing in estimation or something somewhere. So let's just recheck how you are doing it. So benchmarking is a very good instrument to validate the final price that you're going to submit.
Yes. And so if I were thinking of benchmarking, first off, the really easy version of benchmarking is I'm going to sell a consumer product online, and I have a competitor who's selling a consumer product online. So I go to their website and I look at what price they're charging and I say, wow, I got it. Right. So that was super easy in terms of benchmarking the price of my competition.
Right.
The problem we have in a lot of these big B2B projects where they're probably custom work is, how do I have any clue whatsoever what my competitor is going to charge, given that this project isn't like all those other projects that we've quoted in the past?
Correct.
Right. And so that's the big challenge. Now, if I were in your shoes, I could tell you how I would do your job, but I would love to know how you do it. Let me toss out how I would do it. And then you just say, yeah, that makes sense, doesn't make sense, or no, we can't do it because. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But what I would probably do is try to estimate how it is that my competitor came up with their price. If I'm assuming they're doing cost plus pricing, which I'm not a fan of, but if I'm assuming they're doing cost plus pricing, then I have to estimate their costs, and then I could estimate what price they would charge. Given enough samples, I might be able to create the formula that says, here's how they do their pricing, or at least here's how I can get close to guessing what they're going to do. And so now in this next deal, here's what I think they're going to price because I have an estimate of their formula. What do you think of that?
Correct. In fact, that is what we do. We get these details from some of the advisors that these are the competitors, these are the prices that our competitors are quoting. And we create a database of that. And then from there, we derive that, okay, this is the price generally around 25th percentile or the 50th percentile median based on the competition. If the competitor is an IPP player, it's a global player, how the price is varying based on the kind of, not only just that, it is also about the country. So there are several other things, not only that, even the complexity which is involved. So it is not as simple as that. There are a lot of things which are involved in it, nuances which are involved into the benchmarking. Benchmarking just cannot, if we are just using the numbers just like that, then it may become actually a very, very problematic thing. Because if you are just picking up the numbers that you would have picked up from a particular deal in the past, or what generally the competitors quote, and instead of being useful, actually you may be bringing a lot of harm to the pricing approach that you're going to go with. Because what happens is that every RFP requirement is so different. There are so many nuances involved in it. And my competitor, whatever they have been quoting, they would have quoted for or altogether a different kind of an environment. Can I really just pick up that price? No. There are so many things that we should be taking into consideration, and that is where I find a lot of challenge there, and that is where I get questioned also, being part of the benchmarking team, because I have been into the role of pricing, into the finance side of it, where I was in fact questioning the sales team. How can you say for sure that this is the price that you should go with? Um, uh, because in this specific case, there is so much of non-standard services, so much of complexities involved. You just cannot pick up any price from the benchmark and you can say that, yeah, go ahead and use this price. You have to, at some point of time, do some bottoms up cost plus margin also for certain segment of the services, which we call as the value-based pricing, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. First off, I think it isn't fair to salespeople. I'm going to take a salesperson side for just a second. It isn't fair to salespeople to say, how do you know this is the right price to charge? Because I don't think anybody ever knows the right price to charge. And so what we're really trying to do is make our best estimate given all the information we have. And so it'd certainly be fair to say, how did you come up with this price? Or why do you think this one might be the winning price? But there's no chance that they know that that's the right price.
Right. I agree 100%.
Yeah. And then what I heard you describe, which I thought was brilliant, is I can't just look at what was the price my competitor charged last time. I really have to think through, how did my competitor get to that price? So are they getting resources out of a different country to do that? Or is it a different country that's quoting it and they have different margin requirements in that country? So there are lots of different things that are going to come into play. Oh, by the way, maybe they don't have the capabilities we do. And so they're going to take a lot longer to do a specific task than we would take to do that task.
See, to this point, I would say that the customer is not at all interested in what is my cost and what is my margin. Customer is just interested in a price and what the customer is willing to pay. So from a price benchmarking perspective, what we can say is that, yes, this is the price that the customer is willing to pay, and that is what signifies price benchmarking, that this is the price that you should go with. But the only challenge with price benchmarking is that it gives you the price, but then it does not give along with it the nuances involved in it.
Yep.
By nuances, what I mean is that, let's say, to give an example, if we are talking about firewall management. Now, firewall management for one account would be so different from another. I'm not talking about complexity like how many network parameters being supported, but something like additional non-standard services, some additional value that we are bringing for one customer, which we were not probably giving for another customer. So, that makes benchmarking not really as simple as it appears to be. There are certain additions or upgrades that we have to make on top of it, some uplifts or downsizing, so that it becomes really core behind all the decisions.
Yeah. So Monica, I want to make sure that we're using the same language for a second. When I think of the word benchmarking, I think of it as, I am trying to guess or estimate what my competitors are charging, what prices they're setting. But that doesn't dictate what price I charge. That's just my best guess at my competition's decisions they're going to make. And now the price I charge, I might find myself in a situation where we helped write the RFP. The executives all love us. They need a technology that we have that nobody else has. And so I could run my benchmarking, but it doesn't mean that I couldn't be 20, 30, 40% higher than my competitor's price and still win that deal because of all the value that we've sold to the customer.
Right.
Yes. So I love this topic. Now how do you how do you validate your benchmarking? How do you make sure, or at least get better and better at guessing what your competitors are going to charge?
It is um, uh, so sorry, I did not get that question.
That's okay. In the world of benchmarking, we're collecting data, and every time I get a new data point, let's pretend that I predicted that my competitor was going to charge $1 million, and in truth, they only charged $700,000. Now I want to know, why was I so far off? What process, do you guys have a process, or do you think through a process that says, oh, here's how I modify the way we make guesses in the future because of this new data point that came in?
Yeah, we do try to do that kind of a post-mortem thing to understand as to what led to the difference. And there are different you know analysis which comes out of it. One could be because of maybe too much of high contingencies that we are keeping, too much of cost that we are adding, or maybe in the first round itself, we are just trying to go to the customer with too much of solutioning into it, with too much of solution architecturing into it, which was not really required. Customer was just looking for a very, very simple solution for their very, very basic requirement with a simple price and a simple solution. But here, just to show too much of value add for the customer, we are just over architecturing it and giving a very high price. So these are some of the instances where we have seen that our customer has won a deal because they went really simple with the solution and the price.
Yeah, that brings up two big questions for me. One is, how do you get the prices? That question often comes to me, by the way, when I'm teaching. How do I go find what prices my competitor charged? And let me just stop there. How do you go find your competitor's prices?
Sometimes I find the competitors' prices are quite close to the price that we are keeping. I don't really see too much of a difference there, but I think it is more of a pricing model, how they are putting it in front of the customer. That is
Yeah.
what matters.
So, Monica, what I was really asking is, how do you learn how much the competitor charged?
So this is something that comes from the sales insights. Okay, after the deal has been closed, that is from that specific deal where we have actually where we were part of the deal. Otherwise, there are many advisors who are there who help with that reports, who provide the prices that competitors generally quote. And there are several advisors there who are providing those reports. And from those reports, we get an understanding of the prices that our competitors are quoting. Names are not there, who are the competitors, but the prices are there. Overall, the average prices.
Got it. And so if the names are not there, does that also imply that they don't tell you what the proposal was? So they're charging, $1 million, but they didn't say what they were going to deliver for $1 million. So you don't really know what they were selling. Is that true or not true?
Yes, it is true, and it is more like an RU based pricing. So I'm talking about the infra world, where it is all related to resource unit, where we're talking about per server price, per database price. I'm not talking about the hardware. I'm talking about the managed services prices. So we get that per server. This is the price that the competitors have been quoting on 25th percentile or 50th percentile. So we get numbers like this. And also bifurcation in terms of Indian competitor or a global competitor.
Got it. This whole concept of benchmarking is pretty fascinating. Do you guys see real differences in results because you do benchmarking?
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean,
just think of a scenario where you're just doing pricing without having benchmarking in picture, and then a scenario where you are doing a pricing and then benchmarking is also there. There is so much of confidence where benchmarking is there, where benchmarking is there to validate. And in fact, I would say that the chance of winning a deal increases by many notches.
Nice. And I love the fact that you said the word confidence too, because salespeople who are confident are much more likely to be successful, right? They believe in
Right.
what they're selling.
In fact, yeah, they know because whatever they have been thinking of a price, that is validated by a report coming from the data from our competitors itself. That yes, this is the price that have been quoted in a deal which was sold. So they know that yes, this is the price where I should be around.
Yeah, this has been brilliant. Before I ask the final question, Monica, I got to ask, what about benchmarking should I have asked you that I didn't ask?
Sorry.
Was there anything about benchmarking that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Um, I think the only thing about benchmarking that is about the cost and margin. I think we touched upon this topic, and also another thing. I think something which is important is value. Uh, how do we benchmark value-based pricing? I understand. I have read it, and I know that you are a great advocate of that. That pricing should be based on value, but we can benchmark all the standard services, but how do we benchmark value based pricing? I'm not talking about brand value here. I'm talking about some additional transformational things that we can bring to the customer. How do we benchmark that? That is something that becomes really, complicated and difficult. And I don't think, I mean, at least I find it very difficult, and I really wonder how can anyone do benchmarking of that aspect.
Yeah, my first off, I think that benchmarking value, although it's a really interesting concept, I'm not sure that's the right answer. I think we want to do benchmarking so that we can guess how much my competitor is going to charge. And once we know how much our competitor is going to charge, then the question becomes, what price should we set? And when I think about value, I think about how do we get away with a price that's higher than my competitor's price? And the way I get away with that is by selling value. So it's not about benchmarking it. It's about looking at individual customers or buyers who say, these are the things that really matter to us. And then us as a company being able to say, this is what is valuable to that customer. Here's how we do it so much better than our competition, not about price, just about what we're going to do and deliver. And then what's that worth to my customer when we can deliver this? And all of a sudden the customer says, oh, look, I'm going to make another $10 million because I'm buying from you because of these things that you're doing to help me. That says that we should be able to charge a pretty large number higher than my competitors are charging because of value. So I don't think it's easy, maybe not even possible to benchmark value, but the
Yeah, that's
concept
what.
of value is
Hmm.
crucial.
Correct, correct. I agree.
Yeah. So nice, Monica. This has just been fascinating. Let me ask the final question though. What's one piece of pricing advice you could give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
When you are in the pricing line, then I think it is you need to have a very holistic view. You just cannot go with taking the cost and add the margin and derive the price out of it. You need to have the entire team aligned into one. The sales, the pricing team, the price benchmarking team, the your solutioning team. Everyone needs to understand what is it that the customer is looking for. What happens is that all of these teams, sometimes, especially the pricing team and the sales team and the solution team, they are working in silos, so they don't really understand what is it that the customer is looking for. The one major thing that I find it is, which is very, very important, is that if we have to really give a winnable price, if we want to really understand what is it that the customer is looking for, what is the value that the customer is looking for, what should be the correct price for it, then all of these team members, they need to align, they need to work together, they need and they need to understand they should have some connect along with the customer, so that they are ultimately, whatever the final price that they're coming up is the price that should be ultimately quoted.
Yeah, I think that was brilliant. It really does take a big team, not a big team, but it takes collaboration, cooperation, and a lot of people's insights in order to
Right.
say, yes, this is what really makes sense. So absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Monica. We appreciate your time. If anybody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
They can contact me through LinkedIn or through Gmail. My Gmail ID is monicasinha1002@gmail.com.
Excellent. And we will put that in the show notes as well. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, would you please leave us a rating and a review? Also, don't forget to check out my new book, Win, Keep, Grow, How to Price and Package to Accelerate Your Subscription Business. Currently available on Kindle and Audible. Hard copy will be available in bookstores on October 5th. Finally, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or pricing in general, feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.